Now it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. Russia is being excluded from the sports world as punishment for its war against Ukraine. Russia's national and club soccer teams are now barred from international matches and tournaments, including the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The IOC and numerous other individual sports governing bodies quickly following suit, kicking Russian teams and athletes out of their respective competitions.
The UEFA Champions League Final that was scheduled to be held at St. Petersburg's football stadium has been moved to Paris, and the Russian Formula One Grand Prix set to happen in Sochi in September has also been canned. For more on Russia's blanket isolation from world sport and its potential implications, we connect to Yoo Jee-ho, sports journalist at Yonhap News Agency. Good morning, Jee-ho.
Good morning.
Now, over the years, President Vladimir Putin has carefully crafted his image of himself as a president whose love of sports and competition knows no bounds. So given this, could these sports boycotts be just as damaging to him politically as economic sanctions?
Well, I think it's difficult to really compare the impact of economic sanctions versus sports bans. But if anything, I think it's kind of embarrassing to President Putin himself on a personal level. If you just look at the example of judo, he'd been a long-time practitioner of judo, the martial art, but he's been stripped of all the roles within the International Judo Federation. He's no longer the honorary president of the organization. He once created a judo with helping him stay off the streets and teaching him discipline, but he no longer holds any role within that governing body. And, if this has been damaging to Putin, obviously he's not showing any signs that it has, and there's no indication that he's going to have a change of heart all of a sudden. But for me, I think it will hit a little close to home for Putin. And, seeing these the athletes from his country being barred from the international stage, it's obviously not going to be too pleasing to him. And, he himself has been ostracized from the international sporting community. And, I think it's not about to stop. I think there's going to be even more organizations that will take the same step going forward.
Now, Jee-ho, as most of us know, sport really brings a nation together like little else can do. Ordinary Russians on the street probably don't really care that the Russian Formula One Grand Prix has been scrapped, but you'd imagine that they would like to see Russia play in the World Cup finals. Out of all the sports that Russia is being banned from right now, which one do you think hurts Russia the most and why?
I think FIFA World Cup is huge. They are the previous host of this tournament, which is basically the biggest event in football, if not in the entire sport. And, I believe they were still alive in the qualifying campaign in Europe before this ban happened, and now they're not going to be able to play. Just given the magnitude of the World Cup finals, I think this will probably hurt them the most. Maybe right below them will be the UEFA Champions League Final, which, a lot of people would argue probably the second largest football match this year, behind only the World Cup final in Qatar. So, like you said, ordinary Russians might not care too much about maybe Formula One Grand Prix, but football, just because it's such a global sport, and Russia hosted the previous World Cup less than 4 years ago, I think it's going to really hit it home for the ordinary Russians.
Now, Jee-ho, the economic sanctions on Russia are also having an impact on sports. The one case is the Roman Abramovich, the billionaire Russian owner of Chelsea. He wants to sell ASAP, but the UK just announced sanctions against him. So tell us more about the Abramovich situation and its possible implications for other oligarchs that own sports teams.
Right. He was under a lot of pressure to sell the club as soon as he could, and he recently announced he was going to sell it sometime this summer. Apparently, there are about 20 bidders who already, try to buy this club. And it's not often that a team like Chelsea is up for sale. This is not just your ordinary average football club. Since he bought this team back in 2003 for about $200 million US, they've he spent a lot of money on top players and coaches, and they've started winning a lot of trophies. 21 in my count, I think, since 2003. So, you know, there are other oligarchs, other Russian sporting owners, politicians, companies that have been banned. I think the number is around 100 around the world. Britain has been a little slower in terms of sanctioning these oligarchs and other elites from Russia, just because of the legal process of getting them sanctioned. But Abramovich was one of the higher profile figures to make this move. Also, he's got a little bit of a connection with President Putin, so that added, I think, pressure on his shoulders to make the move. And I think we're going to see other similar moves from other sporting owners from Russia in other parts of the world.
Yeah, under the new sanctions the UK government has put in place, Chelsea no longer allowed to buy or sell any players, even their hotel, which is part of Stamford Bridge, their stadium. They can't even accept guests or even sell a cup of coffee because of these new sanctions, so really biting on Abramovich. But finally, though, there are people out there, non-Russians as well, that are saying that these sporting boycotts are just going too far and at the end of the day might actually push ordinary Russians who might be opposed to the war in Ukraine further towards Putin, because it's really solidifying this kind of us versus them, that Putin is really trying to make the Russian people feel is the way right now.
I think it's a fair point. I think one of the unintended consequences of these sporting bans might be that it's going to give the Russians the siege mentality. It's going to only maybe galvanize these people that, hey, we are surrounded by these enemies, and they're going to maybe encourage the national solidarity within Russia. Sports bans, if you look at some of the history, have not always worked, and it is fair to wonder what banning these athletes in sporting competitions really accomplishes. Maybe we're making innocent victims out of these athletes when it is Putin and his military are the ones attacking Ukraine. But as far as raising awareness of the situation, I think sports bans can be quite effective, and there's also symbolic influence to having these sports bans just because how visible these events are. I mean, we mentioned the World Cup, Champions League Finals, and Grand Prix. These are pretty visible events for even the ordinary citizens. They might not follow politics and military affairs as closely as some of the other people.
All right, Jee-ho, thank you so much for your insights. Hope you have a great rest over the weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.